Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Polish President Andrzej Duda marked the 82nd anniversary of the outbreak of World War II in Wieluń, a town in central Poland levelled by German bombers in the first hours of the war on September 1st, 1939. The ceremony started before 4:40 a.m, the time when German aircraft began bombing the town, despite its being of no military significance. Wieluń. This is where the Second World War began. At 4:35 a.m, a squadron of German bombers shelled the town. The Germans dropped their first bombs on the All Saints Hospital, thus breaking the Hague Convention.
Nikt przyzwoity nie może się zgodzić na to.
No decent person can accept that after several dozens of years, Poles should be vilely accused of any participation in the crimes of World War II. Duda also said Poland lost 6 million citizens during World War II, including Poles, Jews, Armenians and other nationalities living in the country at that time. It was close to 70% of Poland's population, and no other country involved in World War II suffered such losses, Duda added. Before the war, Wieluń had around 16,000 residents and was located only 21 kilometres from the German border. On the morning of the 1st of September 1939, Nazi Germany dropped 380 bombs on the city, killing between 1,200 and 2,000 residents. In turn, at Westerplatte in Gdansk, 210 soldiers under Major Henryk Sucharski put up a heroic resistance to German aggression, symbolised by the shelling by the German battleship Schleswig-Holstein.
Już w pierwszych dniach, dosłownie w pierwszych dniach.
Already in the first days, literally in the first days, whole villages were murdered, burned alive, children, women and old people stabbed with bayonets in the village of Solec.
Zakuto bagnetami miejscowości Solec.
Westerplatte is a symbol of steadfastness and heroism of Poles. The defence of the military transit depot lasted not a dozen hours, as expected, but a week. Our soldiers did their duty for 7 days and surrendered when the commander decided there was no point in risking their lives any further. Security costs money, but the lack of it costs a lot more. And I think this is such a warning not to make jokes, not to try to trivialise, because the world is sometimes brutal. In August 1939, not everybody believed in war. Today, it's 2021, and we are supposed to do everything to make sure there is no war. Today, the candle of generations was once again lit at Westerplatte. We will keep this fire burning until the 29th of September in order to honour the memory of the defenders of 1939. In turn, at Pilsudski Square in Warsaw, people involved in promoting patriotic attitudes were honoured. I hope that the attitude I represent will be emulated by younger people. Asked the question of what the young generations of Poles should remember about the war is answered by the veterans themselves. The young generation should remember that they are replacing us. It is the next generations that will take over the authorities. We should remember the heroism of those people who sacrificed their lives, their young years for Poland. Today, all German diplomatic representations in Poland have lowered their flags to half-mast. You could ask why the German press is accusing Poles of building concentration camps, or you could ask the German ambassador, his father conquered Poland 82 years ago in a German tank, about compensation for the war. World War II was the bloodiest armed conflict in world history. Over 60 million people died as a result of military action, including 6 million Poles. The summer break is over and 4.5 million children and young people across Poland return to school. The Ministry of National Education has decided that teaching will be in the traditional stationary mode, but a sanitary regime will be maintained. In the new school year, classes will be held in the traditional form. However, sanitary restrictions will remain in place at educational institutions. I do not foresee a school lockdown. All indications are that there will be no need for this as a result of the progressive vaccination programme. Even if another wave of coronavirus comes, this wave will not be as severe as what we faced before. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki stressed that science is the basis for raising a wise and informed society. School is of course supposed to teach Polish, maths, nature and other subjects, that's clear. But not only that. School is also supposed to teach responsibility. It is supposed to teach what friendship is, what community is, and what patriotism is. In the first weeks of the new school year, establishments will encourage pupils over the age of 12 and their parents to be vaccinated against COVID-19. These are recommendations for pupils and staff, but the Ministry of Education and Science does not foresee restrictions for those who are not vaccinated. The beginning of the school year is always a joyful moment for everyone. We are happy to be able to start this year in a stationary mode. However, we should also remember that the recommendations of the Ministry of Education and Science, the Ministry of Health and the Chief Sanitary Inspector are binding. Children admit that they were looking forward to going back to school and meeting their teachers and peers during their remote learning and holidays.
Za czym tęsknimy najbardziej?
What did you miss? My friends.
No jasne.
Za nauczycielami
Teachers, breaks and colleagues.
i za koleżankami i kolegami.
Po prostu nie
I just didn't like being at home all the time.
ciągle w domu.
Egzamin
The 8th grade exam can be done better with classroom teaching.
ósmoklasnemu nauczaniu niż zdalnemu.
Ze koleżenkami,
My friends, teachers and games.
zabawami.
According to the head of the Ministry of Education, Przemysław Czarnek, schools will receive equipment worth over 100 million zloty. Among others, disinfecting fluids, temperature measuring devices and personal protection equipment, including masks or gloves. The Ministry of Education has prepared a national programme to support children and young people after the pandemic, which envisages improving the physical condition of pupils, psychological and pedagogical support, prophylactic measures concerning eye defects and assistance in supplementing knowledge. The Polish president could declare a state of emergency in areas near the Polish-Belarusian border within the next 2 days, according to the head of the president's office, Paweł Szrot. Yesterday, the Polish government asked the president to declare a state of emergency in parts of 2 eastern provinces close to Poland's border with Belarus due to increasing numbers of migrants crossing from Belarus. At the same time, activists who destroyed a border fence a few days ago and were arrested by police were set free by the court. Apparently, the court sided with the defence argument that material damage done by the group was minimal, 650 Polish zloty or €150, making this therefore a misdemeanor.
Walczymy dalej.
We continue to fight for the group of 30 Afghan refugees at the border, and we must fight the Polish government, which is pursuing a scandalous anti-refugee policy. BARTOSZ, the chairman of the Open Dialogue Foundation Board, is currently on bail for other trespasses in the past. Despite his release from custody, the attempt to destroy the fence has been classified as an act of hooliganism, and if convicted, his sentence in other cases may be increased. The behaviour of the court is astonishing. This man is accused of money laundering, and this from sources that most likely come from the Russian secret services. The man who attacked the border, he organised an attack on the Polish border at a time when the Belarusian services are trying to disrupt it. He is being released without any bail. In June this year, Bartosz KRAMEK was temporarily arrested for a period of 3 months, but left custody after paying a surety of 300,000 zloty. According to investigators, KRAMEK, being the president of Silk Road Company, issued 59 fraudulent VAT invoices for a total amount of 5.3 million zloty. The prosecution believes that there were no services performed. This crime potentially carries up to 12 years imprisonment. I have the impression that Bartosz KRAMEK can always count on the sensitivity of the courts in Poland, which are effectively boycotting the Polish state. In August, the border guard recorded 3,500 attempts to cross the Polish-Belarusian border illegally. More than 2,500 were thwarted. According to the Ministry of National Defence, almost 15 kilometres of fence have already been erected on the Polish-Belarusian border. After several delays, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is about to talk to his US counterpart Joe Biden. Ukraine is worried about deteriorating security in Eastern Europe. The Biden administration allowed completion of the Russo-German Nord Stream 2 natural gas pipeline, and in less than 2 weeks, Russia and Belarus are expected to sign a treaty on closer integration. This poses a threat to Ukraine's borders. Zelensky wants to learn whether the United States is serious about its commitments to European security. The meeting was supposed to be an opportunity for the United States to demonstrate support for Ukraine, something Mr. Zelensky has been seeking since 2019, when his efforts became entangled in former President Trump's first impeachment trial. It comes in the wake of an event that has caused numerous American allies to question the firmness of Washington's support. Ukraine, bogged down in a 7-year-old war with Russian-backed separatists, is particularly vulnerable. The country has sought membership of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, but that seems to be off the table for fear of provoking Russia. Joe Biden's advisers are sending reassurances about the United States' ironclad commitment to Ukraine's security, sovereignty, and Euro-Atlantic aspirations, as well as to discuss Ukraine's continuing reform programme. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.